Hello everybody and welcome to another one of our leadership training videos. In these leadership training videos, what I do is I just take you through my own personal experience in terms of leadership, what has helped me to get to where I am today, what are the experiences that I've had that could be helpful to you in your own journey as well. I always take a topic and I just break it down in the shortest possible time just to give you the highlights of what I feel and I believe you should consider in your own journey. So whether you're an entrepreneur, you're a leader, you want to be a leader, or you just want to know about leadership, I'll explain some of the traits, the qualities, the skills, and the abilities that you need in order for you to grow at your own pace and to gather whatever experience you want. Now, my name is Chris Igwe. I have over 35 years experience leading, training, and developing teams across 5 major European markets, but also Europe, Middle East, and Africa, where I've worked, and also linked into Asia and the United States as well. Now, I'd be very encouraged and delighted if you liked, shared, commented. Give me your thoughts and insights in terms of what I'm sharing with you. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you know when other videos are becoming available. So let's get into it. What I want to do is to break down what I consider are the 3 I's of leadership. So the letter I. What do I see as the important letters in leadership? And then what are they for you? So as we go through this and at the very end, why don't you see what you think the I's of leadership are for you? So before we get into it, let's start here. I guess the first thing to explain is that those components of leadership are going to be a combination of traits and values. So whatever the I is, or the I's are that you're going to be including, the question to yourself is, how are these traits and how are these values and how do they fit into what you're doing? So if you're not familiar, the first is just to break down a trait. So what is a trait? And I talk about leadership traits or leadership skills or leadership abilities. Yes, they're all linked to leadership, but what are the actual traits and what do traits mean? Well, here are 3 things that I've broken it down into just to give you a sense of what the meaning is. So traits are basically, firstly, it's a characteristic of your personality. It's a way in which you behave. What are your behavioral traits? What are the ways in which you behave as an individual? And although I mentioned personality before, it's what is your own personality? It's a bit like your own, not so much DNA, because people can have similar personalities, whereas, as we know, DNA is very unique to an individual. But what are the characteristics that define the way in which you lead? What is the behavior? How do you behave? How do you act from other people's points of view and also, of course, your own? And in a sense, what is your personality? Are you a bubbly extrovert or are you an introvert? Are you more silent or are you more noisy? Those are the kind of things, but you may be the life and soul of a party as a leader because you're funny. You tell jokes, people get it. Or maybe you behave in a certain way, so you come into a room and you walk in a certain style. Or maybe it's your characteristic. Maybe you're someone who plays with a pen in a certain way, just to make it simple, okay? These are, obviously I'm talking about leadership traits and skills, but I just want to give you a sense of how you might behave and perform. So your characteristics, your behavior, and your personality are sort of the traits. But let's go on then to the values. Now the values are much more fundamental, they're much more underlying, and in some ways they're very much more personal as well. As I said to you earlier on, a personality or a behavior, there could be other people that do the same in a more broad sense. Values tend to be a little bit more or much more individual, as the case may be. So what are your guiding principles? What are the things that you have as your main method of behavior and functioning? What are the guiding principles that you use, which are absolutely fundamental? And you'll see how that leads into my 3 I's and see if those work for you as well. It could be your beliefs as well, what you believe. And I don't necessarily mean in terms of a higher power or higher authority, or indeed Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, or whatever. It's what is your belief system? What is the way in which you behave in respect of something that you fundamentally believe? So, as an example, you may say, well, I believe that people should be treated equally. Whether they're male or female, young or old, my belief system is that I want people to be treated in that similar way. Values are also motivations. So the way in which you motivate yourself, but you motivate others towards achieving a particular goal. So they could be your drivers, your motivators in order to get somewhere. So guiding principles, beliefs, and your motivations, what are those for you? And those are the foundational pieces. So what are the 3 I's? Well, before we get to it, we need to understand that your values, which as I said are personal to you, you have to understand that they're probably going to be influenced by these aspects, which is why I said it's foundational and personal as well. So these could be the things that affect the way in which you see those values, because it could be you come from a culture. To give you another example, it could be that in your culture, as in my African culture and in some others, we are, for want of a better description, male-dominated cultures. And there are many other cultures around the world that are like that, but there is a looking towards the man of the house or the man of the village or whatever, because we believe that the men, especially the first boy, for example, is the one who leads or the one to whom people refer or look to get wisdom, insight, and so on. So it could be the culture is based on that. So my culture might be that women are subordinate to the way that I behave. Now, of course, when I move into other environments, which I could put in here, like upbringing or education, I don't see the world that way at all. So that's not me. But I'm saying culture could affect the values that you use in the way in which you lead. It could be equally your upbringing. How were you brought up? If you were brought up in a very authoritarian or totalitarian environment, your father was the decision maker and you just had to follow him. Or similarly, it could be a family in which you had a tremendous amount of love. And that love is going to come through in the way in which you lead other people. So that empathy, if you like, it could be what affects your value. Education, whether you go to what we call in the UK, for example, a grammar school, or to a comprehensive school as they used to have, a school that is, or public school to make it simpler, even here in France. Public schools where that is not a private education. Now, for some people, that's okay. For many, it's a stigma because they would rather have gone to a private school or indeed to private university, college, etc. So it could be that education places a particular view on how you see the world because that's the way you were brought up, that's the way you were educated, and that's the way in which you see treating other people. It could also be, the final one I put in here, your personal struggles. So depending on how you lead, maybe you're someone who has struggled through war, through famine, through difficult upbringing, parenthood, divorce, separation in your family, and various other things. So it could be that your personal struggles, they could affect how your values are set up, but more importantly, they will be integrated within it. So some of these may be relating to you, and then you have to then see how they fit in to the leadership style that you want to use. So here we are. Here are my 3 I's. I did a video previously, check it out, on integrity. For me, that is the number 1 element as far as my leadership I's are concerned. Integrity is incredibly important. For me, it is non-negotiable. It's absolutely that. So whatever, a bit like, and I did another video on that, my word is my bond. So if I shake your hand or I say to you verbally, this is what we're going to do, or this is how it is, or whatever, and it goes wrong, and I make a mistake, I made the wrong judgment, I own it. I won't pass it to anybody else. I won't give it to anybody else. It's my decision, my choices. I made a mistake. I take that on board. That is integrity. That is about whatever happens, rain or shine, sleet or snow, what I say, morning, afternoon, and evening is always the same. So integrity is incredibly important for me. The other important one is to be inspiring. And I think as a leader, this is incredibly important. It could be inspiring or it could be inspirational. So how you inspire people. Now, I'm very fortunate that I know that my leadership style, whether it's been within corporate or outside of corporate as I am now, running my own business, People have told me that I inspire them. Either I inspire them by helping them to achieve or do things that they wouldn't ordinarily do. You see, I've done lots of different things that I've built as a toolbox in my own growth and my own ability. And there are others who'd like to be like that, or there are others who see it perhaps through social media or through connections with me, or we see in meetings, and I just come up with that idea, that thought, and they go, that's interesting, I hadn't thought about that, that's a great idea. Anything that I can do to inspire people in whatever form, for me, that is one of the key elements of leadership. And then the final one is inclusive or inclusiveness. Now, this has nothing to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion in the sense of today's modern conversation around the whole subject. I have, from day one, which as I said is over 30 years ago, I have always been inclusive. And what do I mean by inclusive? It's not just about gender, it's not just about education, it's not just about color and everything else. It's about the fact that you bring all individuals who you are leading into the decision-making process, or involve them to help them grow, give them tasks that you delegate to. So there is no unequalness in the whole process. For example, I've always treated my personal assistants in the same way as I would treat anybody else in the team. They have different roles and different functions, but they are all equally important. Some people would put a PA at a different level. I've seen it done. I think that's wrong. I think that's very inconsiderate. So inclusiveness for me is way beyond the modern day connotations and conversations around diversity and all the rest of it. It's the fact that you include everybody that you're leading, from the janitor, if they're in your team, right the way up to your right-hand man or woman, if you're a CFO, CEO, whatever. So inspiration is very important. Integrity, inspiration or inspiring people, and inclusiveness, those are the things that are most valuable for me as far as the eyes are concerned. So I'd like you to go away and do your own homework or your own thoughts. Maybe you've got your own ideas already. Maybe you disagree with those. That's totally okay. Or maybe you have others. Maybe there's more than 3, which is totally okay as well. But these are my top 3 that I work with as my 3 eyes. So I hope this has helped you to get a better insight. Please feel free to like, share and comment, and of course subscribe to the channel so you know when other videos are becoming available. And I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. Thank you.